There you go.
Welcome to the March 4th, 2025 session of TAPR and HamSCI technical session. My name is Dave, KV0S, and this week I have been doing some printing, not as exotic as Elmer, but I have been exercising my uh, printing. I rebuilt a printer and have been revitalized in printing parts. So um, that's one thing I've been working on. And then with the help of Michael, I've been trying to clean up my radios and get ready to start experimenting with writing scripts that have sets of instructions on how to set up to do specific things. So that's my goal in the next couple months to work on some of those things. So next on the list, we have Nathaniel, W2NAF. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Thanks, Steve. I've just continued working on making sure, working with the Hamside Workshop local organizing committee to make sure things are moving along smoothly for the Hamside Workshop. I think it's coming along nicely. We are, I've also been working with the teams, the Scranton team on their poster, How Do We Put a Receiver in Antarctica? And I'm very happy to say that during our telecon today, we not only had our normal attendees, Hyomin, Kim and his student Jeremy McLinch at NJT and David McGaw and Jim LaBelle from Dartmouth. But we also had Michael Hartje show up today
Oh,
from Bremen. And he worked with our students at Scranton going over the poster, and he's going to give some data we're going to use the data that Rob Robinette sent out over listserv on the poster the other day. So it was really a lot of fun actually talking with Michael Hartia and hearing about what he has to say and interacting with him. So it was really, really quite pleasant working with him. Um, and then after that, we worked with Bud Trench, AA3B, over at the Frankfurt Radio Club. To our student Owen worked with him on his poster about creating the DX dashboard for the personal space weather station. And again, both of these posters right now are just kind of planning posters. So when I onboard new students, the first posters I have them do at the Hamside workshop are really like learning posters. Just, okay, do a poster about the project, what you're going to do, and kind of plan everything out as much as possible. But I was very happy with how that's coming. And then this morning we also had a good meeting with the solar eclipse team. And we had Gwen Griffiths on for that call, and Kuldeep and Mary Lou West and Jamal from Egypt. He was on, and so he's working with Kuldeep on a ray tracing study that I think is coming along. And so he's going to be traveling here to the U.S. on Wednesday from Cairo to finally come to the Hamsite workshop. He's been dying to come here for 3 years, and we're finally very glad that he got his visa and he'll actually be able to come and give a presentation. So he's very excited. So back to net.
very good. And I want to make clear that when you talk about Frankfurt, it's Frankfurt, PA, not Frankfurt, DE.
That's right, Frankfurt, PA. So kind of near Philadelphia. So
Yes.
the FRC. So
Okay.
and AA3V Bud Trench, he's one of very, very, very good contester. So he had some really good ideas on what to do with the display. And before each of the contests, he actually comes up with a whole PowerPoint presentation of operating aids with like propagation predictions and strategies and things like that that he sends out to the FRC. And so we're he basically said, okay, here's one plot that VOA cap produces I include in here. It'd be really neat if we had that updated in real time from the what the personal space weather station is receiving. And that made a lot of sense to me. So I think we're going to put that on the poster. And I think this will be a goal for Owen to try to implement both a real-time display of a map of the stations received, which of course is, something that's very common out there on the web. You can really do that right now, but then also have you know, come up with some way of basically replicating that VOA cap display, but have it use actual real-time data rather than a prediction. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. It's a lot of fun.
Very good. Next on the list is Dave, KD0 EAG. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, not a lot of stories to tell. Been working away, trying to get, some things, some space cleared up here in my basement, but that always seems to involve making yet a bigger mess. And I'm well in the throes of that. Um, plus doing other things, working on stuff, magnetometer stuff and things. So, but nothing really exciting to tell. That's it for me.
Okay. Next on the list is Phil. Do you want to K9Q? Go ahead, Phil.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. I like to talk to Scott a little later when things go informal.
Okay.
Let's see. What have I been doing? Just continuing to work away on KNIQ radio, fixing little bugs that show up when I use it in ways that I hadn't used it before. That's usually what's happening. And hoping that I don't break it for other people like Scott uh, with his uh, with his spectral display. I'm hoping to make it to HamSCI. I haven't actually made arrangements yet, but I guess I need to do that now. Um, are people coming before or after? I mean, are going to be anything informal going on before the formal sessions on Friday or Saturday? Because that will influence my plans. I kind of like to be around for those.
Yeah, I mean,
Other than
I'm planning on arriving at the hotel, hopefully in time for dinner, and then I'm hoping that our students can go to dinner, somewhere and hang out with who's ever there.
what
So,
need say what day do you mean?
Thursday.
Thursday the 13th. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Because
Yeah,
I have
Thursday the
family
13th.
in
I plan on
Baltimore I'll
coming
probably
with
go to
Glenn as well.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's about it.
Okay. Next on the list is Bob Strickland. He's got his email address there now.
Yeah, hi guys. Not anything to report here, just checking in to follow up on what's going on. Back to you, Dave.
Okay. And then next on the list is Clint. Uh, K7OEI. Go ahead, Clint.
Hi. Just kind of getting stuff ready for a trip up to the Utah SDR. We have some noise issues we've introduced into the system ourselves, and we're going to chase those down. But it's probably a matter of bonding of filters on power supplies. And we're also investigating some traveling wave antennas for some of the lower bands to see if we can get directivity down there and cover directions for which we do not currently have Yagi antennas, say, and a few things like that. And also, I need to at some point replicate the capacitor-based UPS that we built for the B links, which, for what it's worth, if the B links are just sitting there idling, a 5 farad capacitor will keep it running for more than 10 seconds. So that's more than enough to handle the hundreds of millisecond outages or glitches we get when the UPS trips up or switches over that would otherwise routinely reboot the little NUCs, because the NUC wall wart power supplies and the fact that no batteries just don't hold up. If you're on a UPS and you have a glitch, as things switch over, they just don't hold up. So that's worth knowing. Anyway, back to you.
Okay. Next on the list, let me make sure. Oh, Jim, K4BSE.
Good evening. Not a whole lot to report here. I'm working on my taxes,
Oh,
the most dreaded job of the year.
Always. Well, sympathize.
Back to Ned.
Anyway, next on the list is Dave, W60Q. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, so as usual, I'm just here hanging out, see what I can learn. Thanks.
Okay. Next on the list is Dave Julian, WB9YIG. Go ahead.
Good evening, folks. Yeah, nothing much going on over here. Just finally got all the branches and everything cleaned up from the ice storm. So I'll been doing the work around the house. That's it. Back to that.
Okay. And then next on the list is David McGaw, N1HAC. Go ahead, David.
Good evening, everyone. Well, Nathaniel laid out a lot of it. The eclipse and the Antarctic stuff. Yeah, it was really good to have the our German connection on, and it sounds like we can. There's a lot of collaboration that can go on with him. He has some noise problems that we may be able to help with, and vice versa. And what else? Yeah, looking forward to the workshop. And yeah, I guess I'm just still working on getting out of one lab into another lab and general cleanup. I like what Dave said about cleaning up creates a mess. I can certainly agree with that. And yeah, weather around here has been cold, but we're going to get a major thaw at the end of this week. So hoping we don't have any ice jams develop, but you're crossing our fingers on that one. It actually got to -5 here last night, and then it's going to be pushing 50 in a day or two. So probably it's some rapid runoff. Anyway, back to net.
Okay. Next on the list is Elmer. Go ahead, Elmer.
Hi. I already been talking if anybody had joined early. I'm just going to, an embarrassment. I don't know if we're going to be able to see it. That is, although not well lit, 3 systems running. I have 2 I9s and 1 B-Link. It's connected to one SAS, which is called the single antenna from Glenn, into a shack board, his latest board, into 2 filters, which roll off the 60, so I don't have an FM problem. I built this morning a couple of transformer dividers. They're feeding the 3 RX888s, so they're all equal. The only thing that's different on one of the I9s is it's a 16-bit wave instead of float. The B-Link and what we call Elmer 2 are float systems, so they're all involved in this test that's going on. A lot of testing. Scott and Phil and everybody and Rob, they're all been jumping all over the equipment. And I've been getting ready for the upcoming event, printing posters and stuff. I received from China my latest boards from Glenn, which I'm going to test tomorrow, a couple of them, and take out my old boards. And at some point after the HamSCI meetings, we're looking at how I can filter out major AM broadcasters. I am just swamped with AM broadcast here to the point that I have a 2-meter antenna, actually 2 of them, but I have a 2-meter antenna and I'm still near or at issues with the first amplifier. And we're trying to see if we can filter some of that off and give up the VLF section just to see if I can do that. So I can have 2 antennas, one to be more towards VLF and maybe the other one towards HF. But every day I have improvements that are happening here. Where I was and where I'm at now are just daylights apart with this new antenna. So anyway, I'm going to pull down SAS number 2, get it prepped. I have a pile of equipment I'm going to bring out for show and tell. So that's the goal, is to have everything out there, and we'll do a login for live looks at other stations and we'll have equipment there for people to look at. That's it. Back to net.
Very good. All really good stuff. Next on the list is Jonathan, KC0 or KC3 EEY. Sorry.
Hi, everybody. I've been busy with both VLF related matters and non-VLF related matters, but thankfully the non-VLF related matters, they're either taken care of or on hold right now. I'm spending a lot of my time learning KiCad, learning about the process flow. That's the what you kind of have to learn for any EDA that you use, where to start, and every step that you need to take from start to finish. So I'm slowly learning that. But the hope is that I could have some boards that people can, if for people who are interested in building these systems, once I get the board done and tested here, verify that everything works, then other people could possibly build these VLF active antennas a little easier than having to build it either Manhattan or something like that, and having to worry about cutting the PCB material. Most people don't have a way to actually cut or shear PCBs. Most of the cutters that I've found specialized for that task are quite expensive. So if I could just have boards made similar to how Glenn has his boards made, then that could definitely expedite the process and expedite testing and things like that. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on right now. I'm also focusing on my presentation for the HamSCI workshop. Nathaniel, I have one quick question. Should I mention the Eclipse results, or will the VLF Eclipse results be mentioned in other presentations?
I think they may be mentioned in other presentations, but I think you should also mention them.
Okay.
There's no harm in showing them twice, and you did such a good job collecting them. So,
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. Okay, then. Yeah, because I will dedicate 1 or 2 slides to the results, and then the other slides to the new system. But yeah, and also I do owe Glenn a response. I was interested in, I do feel there's quite a lot of promise in Glenn's essay system. But I just wanted to make sure that it wouldn't cause issues with the VLF active antenna because of any sort of ground loops. So Glenn said that he was going to be at the HamSCI workshop, and I look forward to meeting him if he does end up coming, because I'm kind of curious as to how we could make this like an isolated system similar to the VLF system topology with some form of isolation, not necessarily that it would impact the SA system, but to ensure that it doesn't impact the VLF active antenna. we'll once I talk with him more, I could delve in more deeply. But yeah, I'm actually quite excited to meet Glenn if he comes. That's all I have. Back to the net.
Okay, next on the list is Michael Cowan, AC0G. Go ahead, Michael.
Good evening, everybody. Been working a little bit on Whisper Demon stuff with Rob. I've been working with Elmer and Glenn with the single antenna system things. I've got a couple of them set up here along with the DX engineering antenna for comparison purposes. I've also constructed an actual Bulgarian version of the true LZ1AQ Bulgarian guy, his antenna. And not one of the downstream copies of it. And I'm fascinated by it, actually. It's performing quite well, although I found that it's a loop dipole, 2 loops in a dipole, and they're resonant at 24 megahertz. So there's an interesting peak on the spectrogram that's pretty startling, but it's actually performing well in spots on Whispered Demon and WhisperNet. So, and I also finally did a little bit more work on this program to differentiate WWV and WWVH on the frequencies that both stations broadcast. So it remains a work in progress, but it's always fascinated me what kind of conclusions we can come to about propagation on a frequency where we know there's 2 carriers. So
Yeah.
if we can shed a little bit more light on what the individual components of those carriers are, that's what my stab in the dark was.
And I just to reiterate, I really thank you for doing that, Michael. And I did send an email out to a lot of the people who I know are doing WWV analysis to make them aware of that. And we'll continue making people aware of that. And maybe when we get in the open session, you can show some of your results because I think they're very interesting. It'd be nice to keep developing this.
There are people who are a lot smarter than I am about how this stuff works and better programmers as well. So I'm sure there's lots of improvements that can be done. Although I almost killed myself trying to figure out Costas loops and phase lock loops and whatever else might have been necessary to attempt a carrier reconstruction. But
David Kasdan is very interested in helping you with the Costas loops.
I can also help with that.
Yeah, well, I gave up on it because I thought, well, I'm going to be reconstructing the carrier from these side tones anyway, so I just focused on the side tones, and that's what produced the. But appreciate any help I can get because I know I need it. I'm not an electrical engineer, or a digital signal processor. Anyway, back to net.
Okay. Next on the list is Scott Newell, N5TNL. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, everybody. No forward progress to report this week. It was one of those 1 step forward, 2 step back kind of things. So that's it for me.
Scott, I think you're awfully modest usually because I hear all this stuff that you've been doing and you keep saying, well, I didn't do very much this week.
Yeah, I wish I took 2 steps back like he does.
So anyway, next on the list is Tom McDermott, N5EG. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, good evening, Dave, everyone. Hope my audio's working again. Mostly spent the week writing Verilog simulations tests, and so nothing concrete yet, but there's a lot of code coming out for Xilinx part. Back to the group.
Well, very good. We still have somebody working on FPGAs. So I believe I've called on everybody. Have I missed some? Oh, Dave New. Go ahead.
Subacute bacterial endocarditis. We're missing.
Yes. Sorry, I came in a little late, so that's probably why you ended up missing me in the list. Nothing really earth-shaking to announce here, although I would like to ask Nathaniel if I'm not going to be able to attend in person, and I know that we were talking about that sometime later they'll put out the Zoom information. And I think in the past registration for Zoom ended up being without a fee. Is that correct, Nathaniel?
Yes, and that remains true. And let's see if they got it posted yet. Um, no, it doesn't look like the Zoom registration link is posted yet, but we were talking about it at last Friday's local organizing committee meeting, so it should be up soon. And yes, it will be free.
Okay, well, I have to tell you, the last two or three of these, I have attended them all by Zoom, and I've greatly enjoyed it. So
Good.
you should count on me being there again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right,
I
that's it.
usually
Back to
am,
that. Yeah.
I find that it's hard for me to travel to it
Yeah.
at this time of year, but I do almost always watch the Zooms if they're available.
Yeah, it will be available.
All right, great. Thank you. Back to Nat.
Okay, I think we have everybody, so we're open for general discussion.
I have one quick question for Nathaniel.
Sure.
Did you get Jim LaBelle's email this afternoon?
With the slide?
No, we're wondering if what you have of Nick Hall Patch's eclipse data, the medium wave.
Yeah,
He
so
indicated you might have a spare disk.
um let's see. I have a disk that we could make a copy for you and get
That
you a
would be good.
copy.
Yeah.
Okay. So
How
yeah,
much
well,
data is on the April eclipse?
I I have to look. It's the disk is sitting in my office.
Okay.
So
Yeah, well, we've got an 8 terabyte disk we can supply.
okay.
Um,
That yes,
maybe,
that sounds good.
okay. Yeah, Nick thought you might have a second disk with the data on it.
Actually, I think I probably do because yeah, because he had given it to KM3T Dave Pasco
Right.
to post, I think, publicly on the web, and then Dave couldn't do that anymore, so I think he shipped it to me. So I think that's true. If that is what's on there, I can just I can just ship it to you.
That would be great.
So or I can, or maybe better yet, I can hand it to you in person in Newark a
Yeah,
week or so from now.
I think Jim may
Yeah.
want it sooner than that, but we'll
Oh,
see.
okay.
Either way.
So, yes, sooner is definitely possible. So, okay, I will be
Yeah,
tomorrow
see what you
morning.
can find tomorrow.
Yeah, t tomorrow morning, I'm planning on going to a coffee shop first thing and answering all my emails and try, or as many as I can possibly answer. And yeah, um,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
we have a student working on our data right now, and we would
yes, I will,
like to get her looking at the
yes.
other stuff as soon
Okay,
as
I'll
possible.
reply to Jim's email.
Okay,
I also
great.
wanted to mention that Ed Dunlop popped in here and he then disappeared. So I don't know if he was planning to attend or not tonight.
Didn't Nick Patch have an FTP site with all the data? I was one of the participants, and I know I did an upload, and I believe John Ackerman did as well. It seems like I saw it on the site.
Yes, so
Or
Nick
you
Hall
want?
Patch has already publicly posted, I believe, quite a bit of the October 2023 data onto Zenodo. um, under the HamSCI community. Which if you go to, I'll put it in the you
Yeah,
can
so the
find a
short
lot of
answer is the October data is there, but the April has not been loaded to it.
yes, that is my understanding of it. And I think it may be coming, but yeah, if you go to that link I just put in the chat, you can find a lot of the uploaded data that he's been able to
Yeah,
organize for the
that's
October
the
eclipse.
site that I uploaded to.
Hmm.
I did April and I did not upload to that site. It was, I think, his personal site.
Right, yeah, I don't think he has all of the April data done yet, but I know he's been quite diligent about posting this October data. Yeah. So if we're in open time, Michael, I would love it if you'd show the results of your WWV WWVH disambiguator.
Okay, I'll show you a picture of the, let's see if I can share the screen here. There, there.
There
Can you
you
see
go.
that?
Yes.
So blue is WWV, red is WWVH. There's some things about this that I don't perfectly understand. But one of the things I did find a bit encouraging was the correspondence to the spectrogram from the same day.
What's the frequency here?
This is 10 megahertz.
Thank you.
One of the things that's peculiar about it is the correspondence over here. Can you see my
Yeah,
cursor?
that I was looking at that right away, and that struck me as odd.
Yeah. I've been in communication with Gwyn, and it struck him as a little bit, although being across the pond, he called it a niggling feeling that he had about it. So, but the center part here corresponds quite nicely, of course, with the transition from sunlight to darkness. Um, and this is the combined plot, so that
You mean darkness to sunlight? I mean, that's your
darkness to
little
sunlight. Yeah,
sunrise,
so
right?
it's 12. Yeah, it's dawn here in this in
That's your
Missouri.
okay. So yeah, that's your sunrise. Okay.
Yeah. And then things are fairly stable during the day. And this is, by the way, just methodologically, this is entirely based on the 600 and 500 hertz tones, side tones that are broadcast, and measuring the signal to noise. So, well, in this case, it's not measuring the signal to noise. I do a band pass filter really narrowly on the tone, plus and minus 4 hertz, measure the signal strength, and then measure the peak frequency and its deviation from the expected frequency. And that's what generates this graph here, is having done the band pass, let's say for instance at 400, if that happened to be this, or 500 if that happened to be the frequency that WWV was broadcasting at, for instance, if it was a slight deviation either above or below it, um, it would measure that, and that's what gets plotted here for both stations. Since the tones that are broadcast, the side tones, are unique to each station at any given minute, it enables this kind of differentiated plot of the strength of those side tones. um, it gives a gross view of it. Of course, it's obviously gap. There's obviously gaps. These tones broadcast only 40 5 seconds out of the minute from 0 to 40 through 44. There's obvious, you see these outliers way out here. I don't know exactly what's causing those things. But the fact that it got me, it was actually a big surprise that it got me in this kind of a zone, and it looked so similar to the spectrogram.
Yeah.
And there'd be better work done on it. I'm almost certain there can be. I'm sure I'm not doing noise calculations correctly. I was asking Phil about that earlier this week. And I'm making some code things, right, adjustments now that I hope will
You're
make an
4 time
improvement.
zones
But
away from Hawaii. I would have expected to see something at local sunrise and sunset in Hawaii also. They're 10 hours behind UTC. But all I see is your
yeah, I don't know what's down here. This is 3 o'clock. Maybe some of this red stuff in here is because this is WWVH. This dip down here that I'm kind of circling with the cursor. Um, maybe that's what you're talking about. And then if
what
I
about BPM and other time signals? Do you hear them in Iowa?
uh, I'm in Missouri, but what are you
Missouri,
talking
sorry.
about?
Do you hear other time signals like BPM? I hear BPM all the time here in late at night.
I don't know what BPM is.
BPM is the Chinese Standard Time station.
Oh,
Also
okay.
transmits on these frequencies.
Oh, on the same frequency?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what the audio tones they use though.
That's
Yeah, I don't
documented if
either.
you look on even
Yeah,
Wikipedia.
yeah.
I get it in New Hampshire
If
as
I
well as
can
the Brazilian
share.
station.
Michael, were
Well,
you
Brazilian.
surprised that you had it looks like you have nearly continuous coverage throughout the entire day of both WWV and WWVH. Did that surprise you? Yeah.
Um, a little, a little bit. Honestly, I haven't had enough time to kind of look into it in detail. There are so many things about the results I'm getting that make me think that I'm doing something methodologically wrong.
Hmm.
When I'm measuring signal to noise, for instance, there are patterns in it that would suggest that what I'm listening to, or what I'm tracking rather, in the software program is something else that's happening on the frequency, because the noise floor will suddenly change as if there's something broadcasting in the pass band that I'm listening to, for instance. Or it'll change because maybe the tone is not there when I expected it to be there or something. So there's some features of it that I remain uncertain about, and I haven't really even uh, uh, had a chance to tackle yet. So
Yeah. Did you
um,
have anything, do you have anything in there? What happens, what does the program plot if you don't receive a signal?
none.
It
So
doesn't plot
it's
anything.
it's 140. It's at 1440 minutes, and so it will plot a signal to noise ratio for one or the other stations if they're a single tone, because occasionally WWVH broadcasts, but WWV doesn't, and vice versa. Occasionally, they'll both broadcast in the same minute, and in some minutes they won't broadcast. Either one will broadcast at all. And in those cases, when one or the other station or both are not broadcasting, I record nothing for the signal to noise for that station, and no ratio of the signal to noise between the two.
Mhm.
Um, but when you plot it out over the course of the whole day, it actually still traces a pattern um, that does correspond with the spectrogram. So
I'm looking at their,
anyway,
sorry.
go ahead.
I'm looking at BPM's webpage trying to understand your signal format. I mean, I've heard them. They send out these beeps or ticks. Um, Oh, wait a minute. Signals are modulated by 1 kilohertz standard frequency. Okay. Yeah, they have ticks and beeps that I guess are 1 kilohertz, so you should ignore those.
The Wikipedia page also says that they send UT1 during
Yeah.
certain minutes during, and so sometimes they're a little bit off depending if you're close to a leap year. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
so
I've heard that. You get the click beep
yeah,
sound.
yeah.
Kind of weird. But I was just looking to see whether anything would get through Michael's filters. And if he's looking at for 500 or 600 hertz, it doesn't look like BPM should get through until they start sending voice, which they do, when the
And
ID.
it may be something like that is confounding things. There's these weird
Well,
outliers here in
not
signal to noise.
necessarily. I mean, they ID, 1 or even minutes, just like WWV does. You already ignore those because there's no tones.
Hmm.
But they
Now,
transfer
this,
4.5,
unfortunately, this
5,
is
10, and 15. So
5, 10, and 15. Yeah, well, it's on the
yeah,
same.
all the same
This,
ones.
unfortunately, this does not line up exactly, but um, the this is dawn and this is dawn here. Um, and so 3 o'clock in the morning or 10 hours earlier from dawn here would be right around here, as Phil was pointing out. This is 3 o'clock in the morning for WWVH. Um,
No, no, wait a minute. No, that can't be right. 3 o'clock in the morning, UT is going to be, it's on the other side of the world.
UT,
So it's 10 hours behind. So,
10 hours ahead then?
well, no, Hawaii is 10 hours behind
Oh,
UT. So if dawn occurs and
dawn
at,
occurs at 13 or 12, 1300 here.
right. Okay. So you're on five
So it's
hours
gonna be
behind.
five
Okay, so another
hours.
5 hours. Yeah. So another
Okay.
5 hours to the left of where your dawn is where their dawn is.
So maybe in here.
Yeah. Well,
But
maybe that's it.
this is WWV and this is
Oh.
WWVH.
And WWV is only one time
No,
zone.
their dawn's later than yours.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. Why was I going the wrong way? Geez, my mind is going. Um,
East is west and west is east.
West is east. Yeah, right.
The Wikipedia
Anyway,
article also has recordings of BPM, so you can listen to
Yeah.
what their stuff sounds like.
Yeah, but as long as they don't transmit tones at 500 or 600, then you should be okay.
Does this plot repeat? In other words, what you have here, I'm not arguing about it, but I'm just curious if you look at the next day, does it overlap?
it's a great question. And I didn't have time today. I had a meeting at work. I was going to pull up, run the program on another day's worth of data and compare it to the spectrogram for that, but I haven't done it yet. But
Because I don't know what
that is a
I didn't know what solar activity we've been having, and there's been listening to 40 and other stations. There's been a lot of up and down lately. So
yeah. Well, theoretically, I mean, this is a really simple Python script that could be run on anybody's site, and you could get the different breakout of what WWV or WWVH sounded like. Um, uh, and it would undoubtedly look different, of course, wherever you are. And during the day, I mean, a lot of these spectrograms are already existing. I can just pull the data from any of them and run the script against it and see how well it matches up. But Nathaniel, last week you were presenting the results of that individual's FARLAP SAMI2 comparison
Mm,
of the physics predictions with what happened at the eclipse.
yeah.
And I was that's one of the things that motivated me to dig back into this
Oh, good.
and to sort of say, because look, the spectrogram you're comparing it to has got two carriers in it.
Mm,
So what would it look like if you knew what the spectrum was coming from Hawaii, or could say subtract the Hawaii spectrum from the WWV, the Fort Collins trace, and then see whether there was either a closer or not so close correspondence with the FARLAP and SAMI2 prediction. So anyway.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you doing this, and I did make sure I sent this out to Shibaji, and we will definitely be looking at it more. I what did Gwyn have any initial comments on this?
Well, yes, he said he was stimulated by it, and he's looking forward to coming and talking about it. But he's busy trying to get his own presentation going, and so I don't know that there's a
Yeah.
heck of a lot anybody's going to do between now and when we all meet in Newark.
Right,
But
right.
um, but he's interested in digging into it more because, again, ideally, one of the things he's looking at is the propagation effects, and if you can subtract things that are distractions from one
Hmm.
signal or the other, and understand a little bit better what
Yeah,
the
no,
odd angled propagation things are that he's so fascinated by, then so much the better.
I agree. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
this is definitely something to dig into more and to keep trying to understand it. So I'm really glad you took this first cut and you got some results that look like they are worth looking at and we can hopefully improve upon. So thank you and
Daniel,
use.
what
Yeah.
kind of plot would you expect to see when you have signal crossing time zones like this, where sunrise and sunset occur at different times? What would you
Uh,
expect to see?
well, so far the Doppler shift seems to track more or less the midpoint of the stations. And I can say that based on like I plotted 2 years of Doppler data from John Gibbons station. I did that a couple of years ago. And when we used the midpoint, noon showed up right in the middle. And if we used the local time for the receiver, it looked like it was off. So usually I would expect the midpoint local time to probably be where you should see the effects. So one thing we can do here is, we could separate it out. I like putting these solar elevation angle curves on the plots, and you can do put those curves on there for different latitude and longitudes. Um, and if you put those solar elevation angle curves on to represent the midpoint for between your station and WWVH and the midpoint between your station and WWV, see how different those solar elevation angle curves are, and then see if your data tracks that. And I think I have some Python code on the GitHub that can help you put those curves on. And I can try to bring that up for you.
Oh, cool.
So if you
But
give
that
me a
is
minute
that
to.
assuming a single hop? I mean, if there's multiple hops between here and WWVH, how many
Yes, it
hops
is
are we
assuming
expecting?
it is assuming a single hop. Um, but it is assuming a single hop. Do I have better code than this?
Even WWVH can be a single hop, gets
Yeah.
ducted over.
But you can also try here's one code that I have up on GitHub. I just put in the chat that you can use to compute the solar zenith angle. And basically what 90 minus the solar zenith angle is the solar elevation angle.
Okay.
And I think I also have it. Where else did I put it? Um,
I think it would be kind of interesting too to see how different these things looked
Yeah.
based on how far you were
Yeah.
off the line that joined WWV and WWVH. So
Here's another this Eclipse calculator that I have. It has IPython notebooks that calculate eclipse obscuration, and it calculates solar elevation and azimuth. And you can also calculate geodetic midpoints and distances. So it has some really nice examples. It's a little bit more up-to-date code. So that second one might be more useful.
Sure.
And then yeah, I just take the solar elevation curves and just plot them as a dotted line over the data, and then it's really easy to see where noon is and dawn, dusk, things like that.
Mm. Very good.
Yeah. I think this is really good. I am quite tired again. Um, so I might
Well, now that you have
suspend.
tenure, you can go to bed early, right?
Oh yeah, right, exactly.
Don't have to work as hard.
I don't think that's quite the case. I think the problem is in my bid to go get tenure, I kept applying for more and more grants and doing more and more projects, and now I'm very busy doing all these things that I built my tenure case off of, and so now I'm kind of overcommitted. But um, we'll work through that. So yeah, but no, I think this is good, and yeah.
Well, I'm going to bail too. And congratulations again.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So,
Good night,
Michael, how are
everybody.
you doing this now?